Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Super Mom School podcast. I'm your host, Mary Aldrich, and today I am joined by a wonderful coach, Rachel Pops. Rachel has been married for 16 years. She's a mom of 6 kids, ages 3 to 21, through birth, foster care, and adoption. She's a certified life coach through Covenant Coach Academy, a certified Destiny Global Coach, and helps women find success, freedom, and ease in all areas of life, specializing in relationships and parenting. Oh my goodness, you are a woman after my own heart. Welcome to the show, Rachel. It's so good to have you today.
Thank you so much, Mary, for that introduction. I am honored to be here. And the feeling is likewise.
It's great to be doing this work, right? And you hit a couple of the areas that I am most passionate about too. I love doing this work. I know you do too. Let's talk a little bit about relationships and parenting, and maybe can we start a little bit back up a little bit and start with what was the reason you got into this? What kind of passions did you have a while back that made you kind of want to help in those areas?
Well, let's back way up till when I was 5 years old. So when I was 5, I knew I wanted to be a mom. Pardon me, I've got a bit of a cough and I'll be clearing my throat a little bit.
Okay.
I should have brought some water, but I didn't. That's okay. I knew that I wanted to be a mom. My big plan was I was going to have 87 children and I was going to run an orphanage in Africa with my sister, and life was going to be great. So
I love it.
Yeah, I know, right?
Not ambitious at all.
No, my personality isn't showing at all. And so I was a really bossy child, really not nice to my siblings, and kind of just, I don't know. I was one of 8 kids. My parents did their best, and I just was one of those kids that needed to find my own way. And I was determined that I could figure it out. I could do this, and that anything I put my mind to, I could do. My father always told me when I was a little girl that I could sell ice to Eskimos. That's what he would say.
That's funny.
And I always remembered that. And so I definitely had confidence. My teen years were really messy and depressing, and I just fell away from the Lord and just felt really lost and alone, and ended up having a child on my own. And then when I got married, on the first date before, like when I met my husband, I told him the 87 children story. He was one of 10.
That's a great start.
I know, right? I'm like, if we make it through this date, we're golden.
It's a good sign.
Yeah. He was the oldest of 10 kids in their family. And so like, I felt like it was not too scary to say that to him. Anyway, he stuck around, praise God. And so then we already had the one child, and from my previous relationship. And then I got pregnant right away after we got married, and almost died with that child. I was in the hospital for a month, had an amniotic embolism. Most people don't know what that is, but it's really bad. The doctors were like, we never see this. This is textbook, but like, we read about it, we learn about it in school. Nobody ever sees it happen.
Wow.
So couldn't have children after that. And what that led into was, we had talked about, down the road sometime we'll adopt or foster or whatever. So we were like, okay, well, let's just do this now then. And so we jumped in head first, and had some placements, and I learned really quickly that I was in over my head. I remember sitting in that first foster parenting training seminar, and my husband and I were both like, yeah, we're really good parents, like our parents were good parents. We know what we're doing. We've got a couple kids. We've got this.
We're going to be fine.
oh my goodness, we were not fine. Um, seriously. And if there's any parents, foster parents, adoptive parents out there that you're just listening to this and you're like trying to keep it together and save face right now, don't worry
Like,
about
stop
it.
it.
Yeah, just get help.
You're not, yeah, you don't have to do it alone.
This is not, I'm going to say this carefully. This is not, it's not an easy road. It still isn't for me.
Sure.
But Jesus said, my yoke is easy, my burden is light, and he's not lying. And that applies to your parenting. And you do not need to be downing bottles of wine in your bathroom, listening to sorrowful music with your kids' arms under the door.
So
I did
true.
that for years. So, I mean, I took all the training I could get my hands on, which in Canada, they offer a lot of that training through foster care. And what I noticed is that I was not really getting anywhere, and my own children were starting to suffer from it. I was getting more and more depressed, and it was getting to the point where like I'd be gripping my steering wheel, driving to some family visit or something, and the kids would be fighting and screaming in the back seat, and I wanted to die. And I was just like, God, kill me, God, kill me, God, kill me. Like, I can't do this another day. I can't do this another day.
Can we talk about that just for a second? Because I think this is a really important point that you're getting at here. You were getting lots of training. Like,
so much
reaching out. So just for people who haven't experienced coaching and things like that, what was the difference? Because I think a lot of times people hear, oh, well, I'm getting training. So, but it's not meeting the need the same way. What do you feel like was missing? Because there's excellent trainings out there. It's like,
and you know what, there is. I'm actually going to touch on that.
Okay.
With a little bit of a story that, let me get to that in 1 second.
Okay. I definitely want to make sure we get that, because that's really interesting.
I'm going to get to that in 1 second. Let me just tie that in.
Yeah.
Think about how I'm going to tie that in. Okay. So there was this one day where I kind of got to my, the max, where I really was begging God to take me out. And it was a winter day, and I came up to a highway. There was a stop sign, and I realized I'm not stopping. Like, I'm on ice, and the vehicle's not stopping. There's a big semi truck coming, probably going about 80 kilometers an hour. I don't know what that is in miles, but and even when I finally did stop, I was not sure he was not going to hit me. Like, it was that close. And so he passed like right in front of my vehicle, and my vehicle shook, and I just stood there, or sat there, and was like, God, you heard me. Thank you for letting me know that you heard me, and for not doing it. And this was in winter of 2016. My mother-in-law had just passed away. We'd just gotten another kid, which I was happy about, but I was just like, oh my goodness, I don't know what I'm doing. How did I think I was good at this? I was like, God, I don't know what the answer is, and that's very clear. So whatever it is, you need to lead me to it. And it was shortly after that I found coaching. And so what was fascinating about coaching, that's when I hired my first coach in January. So this episode happened in, I think it was like November, December.
Okay.
January 24th, 2017, my life changed. There was one more thing that popped up. It was some 21-day routine challenge or something. And I was like, what have I got to lose? I'm like, I know I've taken all this training. I've got to try one more thing. I didn't realize I was walking into the world of coaching, and my mindset started to change, because she baited me with routines, because like I was so not good at routines. Right. And I'm like, routines is the answer, right? Or like, if I was just consistent, or if I was just able to do routines, or if I just was able to budget better, whatever that stupid thing is.
We all think it's the thing.
We all think it's the thing. It's not the thing.
Not the thing.
So she baited me with that, and I'm forever grateful for that. So bait people with what they,
right.
I'm serious. Because that is what's going to get them in the door, and you are actually going to change their lives. so what happened with coaching was when I'd had my first kid, I had stumbled across this book that had all these amazing parenting strategies in it, and they
Mm,
sounded like solid, like light bulb. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I found this. Great. Tried them, didn't work, made my relationship with my son worse, and things were just miserable. So, didn't try those things with my other kids because I was like, no, none of that's
this
going to
is not
work.
working.
No. And so, but then I ended up getting some coaching, and it was parenting. And she said to me, she's like, I know you're here for the strategies and the tips and the tricks and the tools. She's like, I'm giving you none of that. She's like, you'll get some of that at the end in like 3 weeks from now. But right now, we're going to talk about you, and we're going to talk about mindset. And she's like, that might sound boring, but I promise you, if you stick around for this part, you're golden. She's like, this is what you're after, not that stuff. And so
Yeah.
I went through the mindset training. I was totally transformed in my mind and through the coaching that happened. And then when she shared the tools and the strategies and all that stuff, it was stuff I tried with my first kid that didn't work.
Yeah.
But now that I was changed, it did work, because if you use the right tool from the wrong mindset, it will never work.
Yeah.
It'll fall flat every time.
That's so, so true.
So
Absolutely.
stop gathering tools and start healing yourself, because what you believe creates what you think, creates what you feel, creates what you do. And
Mhm.
you can never do enough to turn that around, because it's like trying to, like, I was explaining this to one of my clients recently. If you go outside every day and to an oak tree and put
Right.
oranges on it every single day, it will never be an orange tree. I'm
Never.
sorry. But if you go outside once and you plant an orange seed in the ground and water it, you're going to create an orange tree, and then it's effortless to have that fruit.
Right.
So I'm telling you, as a parent, you can have fruit in your relationships with your kids, with your husband, peace in your home, and it can be effortless if you focus your attention on the roots, which are your own beliefs.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so I think what you're talking about is so counterintuitive. We never think that it's the inside thing that needs to be addressed. The natural way we think about it is it's always, I have to figure out this problem, or I have to figure out how to address this circumstance. And I think it's so valuable to have a coach, because they're the ones that remind us, like, no, it's not the thing. It's the inner work. It's that, yeah. And
Oh,
it takes a
absolutely.
lot of, I mean, I know, like, even as a coach, we all have coaches, because we still need that reminder, right? Of how to work on that mindset strategy over and over again. Yeah.
Well, and it says that in scripture. It says that two are better than one. And we always think that that's
Yes.
marriage.
Right. But it's not just marriage.
That's one part of it.
Right.
But it applies to so much more than that. You need someone to lift you up. And you know what? Your husband might not be the one to do that.
Right.
He might not be in a place to be able to be your coach.
Mm-hmm.
He's struggling with his own stuff, and you guys are growing together. You're a team together, but get your, like, obviously God is your source, but get someone, get a mentor, get a coach, whatever you can do right now.
Right.
Be faithful with what you can do right now, and let that person speak into your life, because, and it's not your girlfriend who's complaining either.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, no.
And I'm not dissing your girlfriend.
Co-conspirators. I call that co-conspirators in mediocrity. Like, when you get somebody else who's in the same pit as you, to be that source, that accountability, and that, like, speaking into your life, you just spend time, like, commiserating together in your hole together. It doesn't actually help you get out very well.
No, it doesn't at all. It's just, we're looking for people to validate how we feel, which is interesting, because we're looking for having someone validate how you feel about a situation is actually trying to gather more evidence to support the belief that's creating the problem.
Right.
Stop doing that.
Yeah. It's
You don't want to feel how
so
you feel,
unhelpful.
go change it.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. Okay. So I want to come back to your story a little bit here. So you got into the coaching because of the need to work on your mindset stuff. And how did you decide that that relationships and parenting was the thing that you were going to talk a lot about? Like what, I mean, I know that's part of your story, but can you talk about like how did you land there?
Yeah. That's an interesting question. I didn't realize it right away because that was the area that I needed help with, right? Like you said, I felt like I was really struggling in the parenting arena. I mean, I wasn't just dealing with regular run-of-the-mill kids either. Like these kids,
Right.
some of them were prenatally exposed, some of them had diagnosis of like
Mhm.
severe ADHD or FASD or bipolar, like some pretty serious stuff, right? Um, and so I took my kids to psychologists, and I'm not dissing psychologists right now. There are some great psychologists, there are some great psychiatrists. I've been to many for myself and for my kids, but it felt like a lot of work. And what I realized, and I wasn't getting anywhere with it. I even had a
Mhm.
behavioral therapist come into our home every week for a while. I did one of those over the phone things for 12 weeks for an hour a week to work with one of my kids, doing all this homework and stuff. And I wasn't getting anywhere. And I was like, where's the disconnect? And I realized that we're trying to help these kids. The best way for me to have 87 children, the best way for me to help the biggest number of kids is to help the parents.
Yeah.
And the parents need to be part of the team. The parents need healing so that they can help their own kids heal.
Right.
Because we can't have a therapist in our home all the time.
Right.
Like we have to be part of that process. And so it kind of just happened naturally that as I healed, I started to see that that was actually the answer. It's
Mm.
like the same with like the homeless problem or the poverty problem. We can go give people in poverty money every day, or we can equip them, we can help them heal and
Yes.
help them develop new skills so that they
Right.
get to end that curse that's
Right.
over their family.
Yes. Yeah. And when they receive the skills and they take those and they're like, oh my goodness, like I have power and authority to make this happen, then it's so much more motivating than the feeling of getting a handout from somebody else and
Yeah.
like the feeling of needing it in order to stay alive or
Mhm.
contribute or whatever. It's so much more valuable. And then they
And
have
that's
the tools to go and spread that to other people too.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing with coaching, like you asked earlier, what's the difference? The difference is you're not I'm not telling you the answers because I'm
Mhm.
not you and I don't know what you want. What I do as a coach and what I'm sure you do, Mary, as a coach is um I help you find what your heart's desire is, what your design is. And then I help you figure out what's been holding you back because there's things in your beliefs in and that might be in from a very long time ago, or it may be just from a relatively recent experience
Yeah.
that's holding you back from and sabotaging you. Who here's self-sabotaged
Hmm.
for a long time? And some of those things are hard to get past on our own. Like I self-coach all the time now that I've learned how to be a coach,
Right.
but that's not enough all the time.
Right.
It's good to get me through the day, but I need the Lord and I need a coach to
Hmm.
be able to get the breakthrough. That was the thing that I did that caused me the most pain was I tried to figure it out on my own for a long time because I am capable and I am confident and I was like I
Right.
can do this. Oh, I don't want to pay money for that. I can do this. I can figure it out. And I used to do lots of DIY, and I get so excited about free stuff. And yes, you may be able to do that. I don't know who I'm speaking to today, but you may be able to do it on your own, but it might take you 80 years and cost you
Right.
the quality of your life.
Yes. 100% agree with you.
Shell out a few dollars, figure it out. And what if you could have those results in a year or in 3 months instead of in 80 years? I'm going to tell you about the first person that I one-on-one coached with.
Okay.
Okay, I told you I'd been a seasoned, well-trained foster parent. I'd had 10 children in and out of my home. I knew what I was doing, right? Been married like 14 years at the time. This is a couple years ago. And I had 6 sessions with a coach one-on-one. And this lady had been married, I think 2 years. She was probably 15 years younger than me. She had one child who was baby. And so like, she was real nice and everything, but I was a little skeptical that she'd be able to help me, right? Every single session I had with her blew my mind and transformed my life in ways that I had been trying for years to do.
Wow. Wow.
Because it's the process. It's how it works. Jesus coached. If you look in the Bible, people would ask him questions. He did not give them a straight answer. He asked them questions. He helped them realize it. And that's what we do.
Yeah.
And it's transformational, and it's not about my skill level. Yeah, I can bring some things to the table, and I have programs and stuff that I teach, but coaching gets you there so much faster.
So much faster. If you're willing. And I think you're kind of touching on one of the consistent pieces is that it does require like stepping into some humility there. I think I hear so much of my own story in yours, and that whole idea of feeling very self-confident and like, I've got this myself, and really being convicted that along the way that it was really pride getting in the way to think that that I don't need anybody else to help me be successful or to help me move forward. And really developing some humility to say, even if I could do it myself, it's not actually helping other people for me to decide that I can do it myself, because then they learn that they should need to do it themselves too. And then they teach other people that they have to do it themselves and they need to figure. And that's not the message that we want to share with other people either. We want, like, we're designed to be in community with each other.
And
I
love that you just said that. I finally made the investment for myself. And at first it was $69 a month. And I was terrified. I'm like, what am I doing spending all this money on myself? And I didn't tell my husband for 3 months because I wanted to fail in silence. I didn't want him to know when I failed. That was my big plan. Well, I didn't fail. And I finally told him 3 months later, and he was like, whatever you're doing, just keep doing it. I don't care what it costs. Anyway, which was great because I ended up dropping quite a pretty pile of cash.
Chunk of money to make it happen.
And he was a little like, he looked a little worried, but he'd seen some results. So like we went for it, and he's so happy that I did. He actually just took the last year off work just to hang out with us because he could. Anyway, that's another story though, but connecting to what you said about community.
Yeah.
I was doing this to help myself. And what I was saying before about taking your whole life to figure it out versus doing it quick, it's not just for you. I have helped countless women transform their lives and their parenting, save their relationships with their kids, parents whose kids were suicidal, like all kinds of things. And that could not have happened if I didn't first get the help.
If you didn't do the work.
It's not it's not just about you. Yes, it's about getting, healing and fixing the things that are going wrong in your life. But so much bigger than that is if you're willing to be used for the kingdom, if you'll be obedient, if you'll be faithful with the little, which is you, if you'll be faithful to get help with you, then you can be a messenger. You can be part of the healing journey for somebody else.
Yes.
Absolutely. And that ripple
Absolutely.
effect is bigger than you can ever imagine.
Yeah.
I will never know how many lives are transformed. I will never know how the world changes. Well, until I get to heaven.
I know.
Because
it's going to be so great.
I've been faithful. So excited.
See all
So
of that
excited.
progress. That's another thing though, I think that's counterintuitive is that and just tell me if you think this is different for you, but I think sometimes even before we've really had a lot of like inside transformation, a lot of times we have a call in our life or a longing of what we want to do or what God's has for us. And it's like, Lord, if you'll just give me that thing, if you'll help me get this going, then I'll be good and I'll figure this out and I'll be better on the inside because I'm doing this thing over here. At least that's the initial like thought process. Like as soon as I step into what you provided for me, then the internal dialogue will change. And God's like, yeah, no. If I give you what you've been called to do, you're not ready for it. It's gonna tear you to pieces because you haven't done the work to be ready for it. And so again, it's that counterintuitive piece of like, nope, do the inside work first. Just like you were talking about that first coach, like if you will, like we're doing this first and really get in it. Does it feel like to you in the beginning, just like, oh my goodness, I feel like I'm wasting my time?
Yeah. You're still failing.
Yeah, you're still
failing.
And
today I'm still failing at things.
Right.
But I just give it back to God
every day.
And it gets easier. It gets easier. It gets easier. So many people just want the problems in their life to stop. I promise you that will never happen.
Right. There's always stuff that comes up. It's always stuff.
We've had 5 deaths in our circle in the last 6 weeks.
Wow.
I had an extra kid for a few weeks. And it was, let me just say, in the past, if I'd had the same circumstances going on, I would have felt out of God, I don't know, I can't do this, like all the things, right? But I stood with this child at my living room window when she was grieving the loss of her mother, because her mother was one of the people that died.
Wow.
And I didn't feel like doing the things. I didn't feel like having the conversation. I was tired. I wanted to go to bed.
Yeah, right.
That sounds selfish,
but like a normal feeling though. It's very normal.
But I realized in that moment, God said to me, he's like, I've prepared you for this. Yeah. You know what to do. You know how to come alongside her. You know how to just be there. You know how to walk somebody through grief. And I was like, you're right, Lord. And like, just being willing, like you said, like if he'd given me that 10 years ago, I would have bombed it. And he knew that.
Right. He knows.
He knew that.
Yeah.
I couldn't have handled it. Some of the kids, and I had this realization recently, some of the kids that were returned to their birth families, and at the time I was like, oh, because I thought that they were going to be a part of our family. That's what it was looking like, right? That was the compassion of God over those kids and over me, because he knew I couldn't handle it. And I can see that now. But even like what you were saying, Joseph in the Bible, he was given a dream that his parents and his brothers are going to bow down to him, right? And so he goes and tells them. He's like 17 years old or something. And he goes and tells them. And then what happens? He gets thrown into a pit
Right.
by his brothers who were mad at him. Then he gets sold as a slave to Egypt. Then he gets falsely accused of assaulting his boss's wife, which was not true. So he gets thrown into prison and forgotten about. And every step of the way, he was developing leadership. He was developing character. And then just like that, because he did not turn his back on God and he was willing to go through that stuff, just like that, he went from prison to the throne.
Yeah.
To the right hand of Pharaoh.
So fast too. Like, you're absolutely right. It was so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We start some new business venture or some new parenting thing or whatever it is that you just
whatever we're trying to do.
Yeah. And then you don't get results in like 3 weeks and you want to quit. Oh, that must not be the answer. Yeah. Be willing, be comfortable. I learned this from a multimillionaire. Be comfortable to being uncomfortable. And be willing to go through hard things. If you push away hard things, you will never grow.
Yeah, it's so true.
And
it's true in the fitness arena. Like, if you never lift anything that's even remotely difficult, how are you going to build any muscle?
Yeah.
But we do that in our life all the time. Like, that's the
we just want to show up at the gym all pretty and then the muscles just like
be there.
Yeah.
Here. It doesn't work that way.
I did that so many times. Oh, I'm going to lose 20 pounds in a week. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not.
No.
That doesn't work.
And I think the other thing that's highlighted so much in Joseph's story is the fact that he had the calling on God's life when he was so young. And then he had to go through a lot of things before it was really the moment that God was like, okay, now is the time that you're ready for this vision to come to pass. And it's so true that we get our idea of what God's calling us to do, and we get a little bit into it. It's like, it's not really working out. Maybe I heard wrong. Maybe I wasn't, all these kinds of different things that we think, and then we quit. And he's working in us, he's working on us so that then he can work through us later. So true.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Your design. I want to speak to those people right now that don't know what their calling is.
Yeah.
We're all out here trying to like be better and improve our skills. And I get clients all the time that are like, oh, I'm not consistent. If I was more consistent, but that's not the answer. God designed you a certain way. You might be highly emotional. You might be highly productive. You might be someone who really can see down the road, like where decisions lead to.
Yeah.
You might just be a super fun person. And if you haven't done any sort of like personality studies, I highly suggest you do. Highly recommend it. There's a few different ones I've done that have been great. Because who you actually are is a picture of your destiny. That is what you're supposed to be doing. God put those desires in your heart. Like, so for me, from when I was young, it was to be a mom. And I knew that from when I was young, but then when I grew up, I wasn't even good at it. So then I was confused. So don't get confused. Just really spend some time and ask God, be like, what is it you have for me? And I think the place that's the hardest for people is they'll do that. But then they're like, well, I'm nurturing and I like people, but what am I supposed to do with that? That's relationships.
Yeah.
Like we don't value it. We don't see value in it because in our world, we only value like money and productivity and that kind of stuff. But that's not what Jesus valued.
Right.
Mary and Martha, he values sitting at his feet.
Right. Relationships more than anything else.
Yeah.
So
And
valuable.
productivity for me, like I'm naturally a very productive person.
Mhm.
I'll do more in one day than some of my family members will do in 6 months. And I'm not saying that in an egotistical way. That's just, I'm
How you're
driven.
driven.
I'm
Right. Yeah.
driven, right? And some
Mhm.
people are not. Um, but it held me back because it became my God and it became my identity. So it is
Sure.
your design, but it's not your identity. It's
Mhm.
not your source. My source is God, and I could be productive every single day of my life and be miserable, which I was, but I had to learn how to rest. I had
Mhm.
to learn how to make God my source.
Yeah.
We have so many idols in our lives, and comfort is one of them.
No kidding. Yeah.
So seek out what is your natural design, and
Mhm.
what are your idols. You got to let go of your idols if you want to be able to embrace what God has for you. I met a lady when I was 16 years old, came into my workplace, and she was probably in her 30s, but she looked like maybe 50.
Yeah.
Like she looked rough. And I found out later her story was when she was 18, she won $1 million. And she
Mhm.
had been like great person, had a great life, like was just, happy, had goals for her life, didn't know how to manage this money, became a drug addict, ruined her life, lost everything.
Wow.
And like years later was still in it. And so that's like when you were saying, God's not going to give you what you can't handle, of whom much is given, much is required.
Right.
I I used to think of that as in, okay, God's going to give me this, and then I'm going to have to really show up and like, be consistent and stuff. That's kind of how I thought about it. But now I don't. Now I realize that, and yes, you do that then, but He's not giving it to you until
Until
the
you
much is the
worked
much
with
is
them.
required is before.
Yeah.
It's first,
Yes.
because He's a compassionate God and He doesn't want to destroy you.
Yeah.
So if you're in poverty right now, or whatever it is that you're struggling right now, and you haven't reached that goal yet, just keep walking through the much that's required. Be
Mhm.
willing to walk through that.
Yeah.
God is being compassionate on you by not bringing you clients right now, by not giving you that bigger house right now, by not whatever it is.
Yeah. He's growing the very skills that you will need in the next phase, in the next thing that he calls you to do.
Mhm.
It's that, yeah, it's that growth process. And to circle back around as we wrap up here, that's why having a coach is so helpful, because in the middle of that, saying yes in those moments is not easy. We want to squirm back out of it, and having somebody to come back and reflect to us like, yeah, but this is where you said you wanted to go. Like,
Mhm.
are
Yeah.
are are you like let's keep
Yeah.
going. Let's keep doing
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
It's like that spotter in sports that like they
Mhm.
tweak your performance. They're like, okay, yeah, your leg is kind of doing this.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I had no idea my leg did that. And then you just do that little tweak, and then all of a sudden your
All of a
performance
sudden.
is
Yeah.
there.
Right. Absolutely. That's a great analogy, Rachel. Such a great analogy. Listen, as we wrap up here, I have one question for you, and then I want to make sure that people know where they can find your information and stuff. Um, I'd love to know, when, just from your experience with talking with so many people about like how to get support and things like that, a lot of times I love asking the question, what do you wish that women were asking when they come to you for help that they aren't actually asking? Kind of like you were talking about before, like with, it's not the problem or the circumstance, it's the mindset. Is there anything else that you find like, oh, if they only knew this, it would be so
Mhm, mhm.
helpful? Any thoughts?
Yeah. Usually when people come to me for help or for coaching, they're usually looking for they're fixated on a problem, which is good because that's what's leading them to seek out help. But
Right.
they're super committed to their excuses, and they're super committed to the drama of the problem a lot of the time. And they can't see past the problem because they're so focused on the problem. And so the thing that's been the most helpful is that story in the Bible where Peter's walking on the water in the storm, and Jesus didn't calm the storm.
Right.
Peter could walk on the water as long as his eyes were on Jesus. The second he started looking at the storm, which is the problem, he was sinking.
Yeah.
So people are so focused on the problem, and they're like, what's the answer to this problem? The answer to the problem is to look past the problem at the answer.
Yeah.
He's always the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand how that sounds very Christianese and very like, oh, that's nice. Like when people are like, give it to the Lord. And you're like, what the heck does that even mean?
Yeah. Does that mean I throw it out the window? Or yeah, it's very theoretical in its, yeah.
Yeah. So just making that practical. I'm not sure if that fully answers that question, but I think what I wish that they were asking, it's more what I wish they were looking at. Because they think that it's going to be some tip or trick or tool or strategy. And I've had clients be like, I want you to tell me what to do. And I can't do that.
Right.
Because
it doesn't actually meet the need.
I am not your answer.
Yeah.
I am the vessel to lead you to your answer. And he answers everything.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything too great for my God? Nope.
No. So good. Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah. And recognizing that he really does meet the need, and that the circumstance doesn't need to disappear in order to experience peace and change and freedom.
I've got a lot of circumstances, let me tell you. Lots.
Yeah.
Right now. And some of them feel really uncomfortable and difficult, even right now, today. And this morning I gave him back to him again.
Right.
I'm like, I'm not the solution here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to know what to do. I need to lean into God, and he knows. Guide me. Yeah.
Beautiful. Rachel, thank you so much for coming on and just being such a good encourager and sharing your story. I just am so grateful for the work that you're doing with parents and with children and all that you're doing. If people want to, I just want to make sure that they know, and we'll put this in the show notes too. If somebody would like to talk to you about coaching or have questions about your interview, they can reach you at rachelpopscoaching.com. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. And then you've got a couple of cool programs coming up that if people are interested in really taking advantage of something right away, you've got the Heir of Eden retreat coming up July 14th through the 17th in Canada. That's British Columbia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
beautiful.
And then you're launching a new group coaching thing called the Kingdom Cradle. Tell me a little bit, what's that about?
So the Kingdom Cradle is on earth as it is in heaven in your parenting. So it's really about how to make that part of your life easy, and it's really focused on the parenting, no matter what you're going through, whether it's like kids with a diagnosis or teenagers that are swearing at you. Like, it really doesn't matter. It could be anything.
That's wonderful.
From drugs to tantruming toddlers, like whatever.
Awesome. Yeah, that's what a great resource for parents out there. So they can find out more about those programs at your website, right?
Yep. rachelpopscoaching.com. You'll find the parenting stuff on there, as well as the one-to-one coaching. If you're interested in the retreat, that would be heirofeden.com. No, Heir of Eden retreat.
Heir of Eden retreat. .com.
Yeah.
Okay. And air is HEIR, not
Yes.
the kind we breathe.
No, but you will breathe so much easier after the
So
retreat.
much easier. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show and for such a great conversation. I really appreciate you joining us, Rachel.
Thank you, Mary. It was an honor to talk to you today. And I'm just so excited to come alongside you and all the things that you're doing for people. I'm so grateful that you're out there doing it.
Awesome. We'll keep doing it together.
Awesome.
All right. See you next time.
Yeah.